Hi, this is Richard Murray with another session of Parking Lot Theology. I want to talk today about the question. It is the question. It is the question, the most common question everyone asks about God. And I would argue, and I hope that by the time you finish listening to this, that you might begin to agree with me, that this is the worst question we can ask. And yet, it's the most common one that is asked. What is the question? What is this dark question that, in my opinion, has led more people away from the faith than any other particular question? Here is the question. Why did God allow? All right, now you can attach to the rest of that question any evil event, any tsunami, any cancer, any sickness, any destruction, anything like that. Why did God allow this destructive thing to happen? A death, famine, pestilence? Why? Why did God allow it? Well, that seems like, gosh, that's a pretty good question. That's the whole problem of evil question. That's one of the great philosophical questions. My response is baloney. All right, that is a dark question from a dark place within us. Why? Here is the reason why. Because that question presumes that God does allow darkness, that God does allow evil, that God does allow destructive, horrible things, and he just stands by. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Calvinism here, because I think this will get us thinking right when we see the logic of the situation. Calvinism believes that God ordains everything. And John Calvin famously believed that there's no difference between God ordaining something, specifically ordaining it, and God allowing it. Now, some Calvinists go different places with it, but I'm talking about Calvin himself. All right, Calvin believed that everything that happens is ordained by God, that every thought you have is ordained by God, every specific thought, so that, for instance, a rapist who has an idea to rape a woman, that idea comes from God. It is ordained by God. All right. Now, whether the rapist gives into that notion or whether the rapist doesn't give into that notion, then that's ordained by God. And then the person he rapes, it's also ordained by God that person be raped as some type of judgment on them. All right. Now, I know that is some disgusting stuff right there, but I will say this for Calvin. Calvin was intellectually honest enough to say this. He said that there's no difference between God causing something and God allowing something. All right. You could just think of those things together. And let me explain that to you. If God has to give a thumbs up, all right, a thumbs up for anything that happens, all right, a specific ordained thumbs up, yes, a stamp of approval. Think of that stamp of approval where they stamp the meat, USDA approved, stamp. I stamp this event to happen. Then he does ordain it, all right? Because if all it takes is his lack of stamp, he says thumbs down, I'm not going to let that happen, I don't want that to happen, then he's ordaining it. There's no other way to look at it, all right? And if the idea for the evil came from him too, if he ordained that, then how can he not be responsible? You see how crazy this line of thinking can get. So what we want to do is go back and attack it right up front and say, no, God does not allow evil. Any evil that is comes from the free wills of angels or men, the misuse of the free wills of angels and or men. That's what Augustine believed. That's what the church fathers believed. They did not blame evil on God. They did not say God sovereignly commanded evil events or even destructive events. They instead use something called the rule of character. And the rule of character is that no matter what the Bible literally says about God's judgment or God sending evil, that it has to be reinterpreted by the love of Jesus, by the nature of Jesus. And when we do that, when we see the nature of Jesus, it realigns the words, all right? It realigns the meanings behind the words. And we begin to see that the real cause of evil, the root of all evil, comes from a combination of Satan interacting, the spirit of Satan, the god of this world, Paul called him, the prince of this world, Jesus called him, his spirit of disobedience that fills the earth and that has caused distortion and deformity here in creation and in our souls. All right, that Satan is is interacting with us, interacting with the lesser angels, but also interacting with us, and that is the author of evil. Satan, along with us, we co-author evil. Now, I would even go farther than that. You know, we're complicit in the evil, but we're not really the authors. We're just complicit with it. And where do you get that from, Richard? Well, John 8:44 and 1 John 3:8 both say that when we sin, we're of the devil. We're acting of the devil. When we commit lust, John 8:44 says, we're committing the lust of our Father. All right, He is the progenitor of that lust. He creates it. He sows the seed of that lust into us. Now we believe it. We're complicit with it, and we need to repent for our part of it. But we need to always remember that the source of all sin comes from Satan. He is the first cause. God is not the first cause. The fact that God allows freedom, all right, that's a different issue, all right? But God does not ordain any evil event ever, ever, ever. So when you hear that question, why does God allow? Don't go there. Don't go there, girl or guy. Don't go there. It's not that God has allowed it. It's that we've allowed it. Mankind corporately and individually, along with satanic influences, allowed it. Jesus is here to disallow it, all right? The cross is the disallowance of evil. Jesus came to disallow every evil event. But to do that, we have to apply His cure. We have to apply the cure. You know, it's just like when the Israelites, they had to apply the blood over the doorstep to rebuke the devil, all right, to rebuke the killing spirit that wanted to come in. The same for us. We have to apply the antidote to evil, and Jesus is that antidote. Well, that's enough for today. I know this is a mind blower, but we'll talk some more about it on the next session. God bless y'all.